In early 1943, the United States Army was about to experience a shock that would permanently change how it fought wars. America had entered World War II with enormous industrial power, confidence, and belief in its own potential. The landings in North Africa during Operation Torch were presented to the public as a strong and successful beginning. Newspapers reported progress. Commanders spoke optimistically. Many believed the German army was already stretched thin and on the defensive. But war has a way of punishing arrogance. In western Tunisia, cutting through the Atlas Mountains, lay a narrow corridor of rock, dust, and broken terrain known as Kasserine Pass. It looked insignificant on maps, just another mountain gap. But in reality, it was a natural choke point, perfect for ambush, maneuver warfare, and destruction. This was where experience would collide with inexperience. Most American soldiers stationed near Kasserine were new to combat. Many officers had never commanded troops under real fire. Training had emphasized theory more than reality. Tank units had never practiced combined arms warfare against a skilled enemy. Communication systems were fragile. Coordination between infantry, armor, and artillery was poor. And the Germans knew it. Leading Axis forces in North Africa was Field Marshal Erwin Rommel, a commander who understood speed, shock, and psychology better than almost anyone alive. Despite severe shortages of fuel, ammunition, and men, Rommel recognized that Allied forces, especially the Americans, were vulnerable. He didn't need overwhelming strength. He needed precision. On February 19, 1943, German forces launched a sudden and ferocious attack. Panzer divisions advanced through terrain American commanders believed was impassable. German reconnaissance had already mapped weak points. Artillery strikes disrupted command posts. Radio communication broke down almost immediately. American units didn't know where the enemy was, or where their own support was. Orders contradicted each other. Some officers hesitated, waiting for confirmation that never came. Others panicked and ordered withdrawals that exposed neighboring units. In several places, defensive positions simply collapsed. German tanks rolled forward methodically. For American soldiers experiencing their first encounter with German blitzkrieg tactics, the effect was overwhelming. This wasn't the slow, predictable warfare they trained for. It was fast, coordinated, relentless. Infantry advanced with armor support. Artillery adjusted fire with terrifying efficiency. Air reconnaissance tracked movement. Every American mistake was exploited within minutes. Entire units were forced to retreat through narrow passes under fire. Vehicles were abandoned. Ammunition ran out. Medical evacuation was impossible in many areas. Captured soldiers were marched away by German troops who had already fought campaigns in Poland, France, and the Soviet Union. Rommel pushed deeper. At the peak of the offensive, Axis forces threatened Allied supply depots, airfields, and rear command areas. For a brief but very real moment, the entire North African campaign stood on the edge of disaster. Had Rommel received more fuel and reinforcements, the outcome could have been catastrophic. Back in Allied headquarters, disbelief turned into panic. Senior commanders realized the truth: the U.S. Army was not ready for modern mechanized warfare against an experienced enemy. Training manuals failed in real combat. Leadership selection had been flawed. Overconfidence had replaced preparation. General Dwight D. Eisenhower made a critical decision. Change everything. Commanders who had failed were quietly removed. Units were reorganized. Discipline tightened. New leadership arrived, and none symbolized this shift more than General George S. Patton. Patton was ruthless. Helmets were mandatory. Uniform standards enforced. Soldiers were drilled relentlessly. Mistakes were punished. Fear was replaced with discipline, and discipline with confidence. More importantly, doctrine evolved. American forces learned to coordinate tanks with infantry. Artillery fire became centralized and devastating. Air power was integrated directly into ground operations. Communication improved. Logistics tightened. The chaos of Kasserine Pass became the most brutal training exercise imaginable. By late February, German momentum slowed. Rommel, lacking fuel and facing growing Allied pressure, withdrew. The immediate crisis ended. But the scar remained. After the war, Kasserine Pass was rarely discussed. It didn't fit the triumphant narrative of liberation and victory. It wasn't cinematic. It wasn't glorious. But it was necessary. Because it was there, in defeat, that the United States Army truly became a modern fighting force. Every later victory in Sicily, Normandy, and beyond carried the lessons learned at Kasserine. History often remembers victories. But sometimes, the most important moments are the defeats that force change. And Kasserine Pass was one of them.